morning students. So I am back with the next video, and today in this video we will talk about how nature favors cross pollination. Now, what is cross pollination? As I have already discussed with you, that cross pollination, it is the type of pollination in which a flower of one plant, pollen grain of a flower of one plant, it pollinates with the stigma of the flower of the another plant but of the same species. So here I will discuss that how nature favors cross pollination. How does it favor it? The first thing is unisexuality. Alright, what is unisexuality? If the flowers are unisexual, that means either they are having male flowers or the female flowers. For example, like palm and papaya, these are the plants which are unisexual. They have a plant which are having only the male flowers and another plant with the female flowers. So they don't have any option because they cannot pollinate with each other. So they favor cross pollination. They can only pollinate by doing the cross pollination. So the male flower, the anther, the pollen grains of the male flower has to cross pollinate with the stigma of the female flower. So unisexuality of the plants also favors cross pollination. Next is dichogamy. What is dichogamy? This is different time of maturation. What do I mean when I say different type of maturation? Sometimes in a flower, it like flower is bisexual. That means it is having both male and female part. But the time of the maturation of both of them, like pollen grains, the anthers and the stigma, they do not get mature at the same time. If they do not get mature at the same time, so that means they cannot pollinate also. So that also favors cross pollination. There are few plants like sweet pea, sunflower, okay, so they have these both parts, male and female, but they cannot pollinate. They cannot pollinate because both anthers and pollen grain, they pollinate, they get mature at different times. Their maturation time is not same. So if their maturation time is not same, how will they pollinate? So it favors cross pollination. Next is self-sterility. What is self-sterility? In few plants, though they are bisexual, but what happens when the pollen grains of that flower, it falls on the stigma of the same flower, they do not pollinate. By some or another reason, they do not pollinate. So that means they, like for any reason, they are becoming sterile. They are sterile now. They cannot pollinate. They cannot reproduce. They cannot produce the seed now. So this is self-sterility. What did I say? I said there are few plants like orchids. Here I have given you the example like orchids. They are the plants in which the pollen grains, when they fall on the stigma of the same flower, they do not pollinate for one or another reason. So this is known as self-sterility. So here also this option, the self-sterility also favors cross-pollination. Next is, and the fourth is herpogamy. Herpogamy means the mechanical barriers. For example, iris and pansy. These are the flowers which also favors cross-pollination because of this herpogamy. And what is herpogamy? Herpogamy is any mechanical barrier. Sometimes the pollen, the pollen and the stigma, they do fall, the pollen grains, they do fall on the stigma, but sometimes the stigma is covered by a hood or any structure which does not let the pollen grains to pollinate with the stigma. They do not let the pollen grains to reach to the stigma of the same flower. So this hood or any structure which becomes a barrier between the pollen grains and the stigma is known as mechanical barrier, and this phenomena is known as herpogamy. And here I have given you the example like iris and pansy. Now next is heterostyle. Heterostyle means different heights. Sometimes either the stigma or pollen grain, they are on different heights. Maybe supposing anthers are on the up, like they are little upper than the stigma, or maybe the stigma is little on the upper side than the anthers. So they are unable to reach each other. They are at different heights, so they are unable to reach each other. And because of this thing also, they cannot self-pollinate, thus favoring cross-pollination. So these all points that I have explained you, I just want to recap them again. So the first point we have done is unisexuality, dichogamy, self-sterility, herpogamy, and heterostyly. So first unisexuality, of course, when in a plant only male or female flower is present, then obviously it will favor cross pollination, because the flower is not bisexual, all right, or the plant is also not bisexual, it is not having both male or female. Even if it is having that also, it needs cross pollination most of the times. Now dichogamy also means different type of maturation of anthers as well as stigma. Self-sterility means there are few which cannot pollinate, though anther can reach to stigma, but they do not pollinate. So they sterile themselves. So this is known as self-sterility. Herpogamy means mechanical barrier. Anything which does not let the anthers or the pollen grains to fall on the stigma. Okay, like a hood-like structure, that is mechanical barrier, and we call this as herpogamy. Now next and the last one that we did here is heterostyly, different heights. When the anthers and stigma sometimes they are of the different heights, they are not able to reach each other, then also the self-pollination does not occur. So here it favors cross-pollination. So I hope these all points are absolutely like you have already understood this nicely. Now next is agents of cross pollination. What are the agents? What are the things which help in cross pollination? If the self pollination between the flowers is not happening, then what are the agents that bring about this cross pollination? So we know, like insect, wind, water, and animals or birds also sometimes, right? So here I will be explaining you insect pollination, wind pollination, and water pollination one by one. Okay. Now insect pollination, as the name suggests, it is showing that this pollination obviously occurs or it is done by the insects when they sit on one flower and then they go to the another flower. Now in insect pollination, I have written everything by making the comparison or difference you can see, so that it should be able, you all should be able to understand all the points nicely. So the first point that I have written here, that in the insect pollination, flowers should be large, they should produce scent and nectar. Why? They should be large enough so that it should be visible to the insects, and also they look very beautiful in the colorful petals. They should produce scent because it attracts the insects, and they should produce nectar because it is the food for the insects. So obviously these are the things which will attract the insects, and then the insects will come, and then only the cross pollination will happen. Now pollen grains which are produced, they are produced in the moderate quantity, but they should be sticky. Why the pollen grain should be sticky? Because when the insects will sit on these pollen grains or on the flower, those should stick to the legs of or the body of the insect, so that if the same insect will visit any another flower or the species of the same flower, those pollen grains can fall on the stigma of the flower of the same species, alright, and then the pollination happens. This is how the pollination happens in insect pollination. Now, so stigma should be sticky and it should not be hanging outside. Of course, because insects have to sit over them. So stigma is always sticky. Why it is sticky? So that it can grab the pollen grain easily. Alright, the pollen grains are also sticky so that they can stick to the body of the insects. And stigma is also sticky so that it can take pollen grains. It can stick it can take easily, or it can, or the pollen grains can easily stick with the stigma of the flower. Alright, next is the flowers are always in clusters. Yes, the flowers, the insect pollination flowers, they are always, most of the time very small flowers. You must have seen they are always in clusters. Why they are in clusters? So that it should be easily, they should be easily visible to the insects. Okay, so that's why the flowers which are having the insect pollination, most of the time they are in clusters. So this is all about the insect pollination. Let us discuss about the wind pollination. Here there is no need for the flowers to be big, okay, because they don't have to attract anything. Wind, as you know, that it is a natural thing, so it will blow automatically. It doesn't need to attract the insects. So that's why flowers need not to be large, and they do not produce scent and nectar. Of course, there is no need to produce scent and nectar because they don't have to attract the insects towards them. Now, the pollen grains, okay, they are produced. Here we can see they are produced in moderate quantity, but here the pollen grains, they are produced in large quantity. Okay, why? Because the pollen grains they all have to blow away with the wind. If we will be having lot of pollen grains, if the plant will be having lot of pollen grains, then there will be maximum surety of the cross pollination, maximum surety of the cross pollination, because the wind can blow lot of pollen grains along with it. So after that, so it should be, what did I say? I said the pollen grains should be produced in large quantity. They should be light, dry and smooth. They should be lighter. Why? So that they can also blow with the wind. If they will be light only, then they will be able to blow along with the wind. Next, stigma is feathery and hang out of the flower. Of course, here the stigma is feathery so that it can easily grab the pollen grains that are flowing with the wind. Okay, and it should be hang out of the flower. The same reason, in order to capture, or in order to the pollen grains which are blowing with the wind, so that if the stigma is hanging out, it can easily capture the pollen grains. That's why it is hanging out. So here the anthers, they are very loosely attached. Why? So that very easily the wind can take the anthers away from the flower. So that's why they are loosely attached. Here, if I talk about the insect pollination, the example of the insect pollination is sweet pea plant. Okay, in the pea plant, the pollination that occurs is insect pollination, and in the maize plant, this wind pollination occurs. Alright, now next, let's proceed to the next, that is water pollination. In water pollination, the flowers are small and they do not produce scent and nectar, of course, for the same reason, because this pollination is the water pollination, not the insect pollination. So they don't have to attract anything. Next is the pollen grains. Here also they are produced in large quantity. Of course, because to make sure that the pollination should occur, that's why the pollen grains should be produced in the large quantity. And here the pollen grains, they have the specific gravity. The pollen grains are light, of course, because they need to float below the surface of the water. They do not, please note this point, they do not float on the surface. They float below the surface of the water. Alright, so they should have a gravity just like water. They have the gravity equal to water, so that easily they can also float below the surface of the water. And in some plants in water, like male flowers, they keep on floating till they reach or till they meet with the female flower. Like for example, Vallisneria. Okay, for example, Vallisneria. Now, I will make the comparison now with the help of this comparison. Like I have explained it right this only. Now I will make the comparison between these three. So it will make more easier for you to understand it. Now, here what did I say? Insects are large. Flowers are large. They produce scent and nectar. Here, flowers are small. Do not produce scent and nectar, of course. And here also flowers are small. Do not produce scent and nectar, of course. Okay. Here they have to produce because they need to attract the insects. Second one, pollen grains that are produced, they are produced in moderate quantity and they are sticky, so that they can stick to the body of the insects. Here they are produced in large quantity to make sure that this wind pollination should happen. Okay, and here also Water pollination also, the pollen grains that are produced, they are produced in large quantity to make sure of this pollination. And here they are very, wind pollination, they are light, dry and smooth, so that they can easily blow with the wind. And here also they are light, so that they can easily float on the water, below the surface of the water. Here stigma is sticky, so that it can easily take over the pollen grains, so that easily the pollen grains that are already stuck to the body of the insects, it can easily stick to the stigma, the pollen grains. Okay, it can easily stick to the stigma. That's why stigma is also sticky as pollen grains, and it is not hanging outside. But here the stigma is feathery and it hang out of the flower in wind pollination, so that it can easily capture the pollen grains which are blowing with the wind. And here, okay, this we will use later on. Now here the note, something different that we are doing in all these, we are doing here the flowers, they are in clusters, okay, so that they should be visible, to the insects. Now here the anthers are loosely attached in wind pollination, so that they can easily, the wind can easily take those anthers away from the plants. Now the next is, here I have told you that the pollen grains, they have the specific gravity. They have the gravity equal to water, so that they can, which can make it easier for them to float below the surface of the water. And sometimes, I have given you one example, Vallisneria. Sometimes the male flowers, they keep on floating till they meet the female flower for the pollination. So thank you children, that's all about the nature favors cross pollination and agents of cross pollination. In the next session we will be doing fertilization, a very important topic. Thank you very much and have a nice day.